Hello, can you all hear me? Okay, good, good. Yes. So we have some people here that are in person. They are coming in to get seated, so we'll just give them a couple of minutes and then we'll get started. Thank you very much. Yeah. No, it's all one.
Thank you all for your patience. Sorry, it took a couple minutes to get started.
I was like, I'm running late, and I'm like, okay, we're good. Right on time.
No, but there was an unexpected meeting right before us, so we had to get that up, but we're all good now.
Anywhere over there. Anywhere. If you want. Anywhere on that. Yeah. If you like, it's there. No problem. It's right there. If you're not. Thank you. Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm too old. This is true. You are correct about that. All right. Okay. We'll do it. At least the new. Next week. Hi, good morning. How are you doing? How are you?
Around there right now. But Conrad said he was going to. If you want. I don't know where you were sitting.
I'm hoping everybody can hear me. I think they can online, so you okay for us to get started?
Yes, Laura says we can hear. Let's go
Okay.
ahead and get started.
Okay. All right, you all, we're going to go on and get started. I do apologize about the delay. There was a meeting in here prior, so we got in here a little bit late, but all's good now, so let's move along. We are bringing forth some changes that we had proposed at the last Landbank meeting on May 20th. So these are all changes, and I do want to state, I know some of you all have picked up some packets. Those are working documents, so we will be posting the revised by the end of the day. There were some things, if you all listened in to that Landbank meeting, that staff, Landbank board had even proposed that were missed in that revision, and we'll talk about that, but we want to make sure everything is in that will be posted online today, but everything has been added to the presentation. I want to start off by introducing myself. My name is Tia Bowman. I am the real estate program manager, and I manage the land bank. So if I've talked to several of you all in the room, but I want to counterparts and staff kind of introduce themselves as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Felicia Sullivan. I am the Land Bank Real Estate Coordinator. I've seen some of you all at meetings before, so it's nice to see you again. And I handle all the information as far as these changes are concerned. If you have questions about these changes, you will be talking to me. If you're applying for a property, I'll be the one that will guide you through that process.
I'm Kayla Day Morey. I work as the administrative coordinator for the vacant and abandoned properties.
And my name is Conroy DeLucia. I'm a communication specialist with this cabinet.
So we're going to get started. I do want to let everybody know that we are holding questions to the end. So if you need a card to kind of write down your question so you will not forget it, there's some cards up here. We have some pens, but holding all questions to the end. And we want to stay on target. So we want to, definitely talk about these changes and kind of just stay on key. So we may need to refocus at times, but definitely want to jump into these questions and changes. So we'll go on and go to the next slide or slide down. I don't know. Yeah, okay. So we want to talk about staff recommendations that we propose to the Land Bank and just talk about like our past, what we have done already. So we did have some disposition programs that changed in 2022. There was a racial equity review. Changes, the changes were well received. They were successful. Neighborhood residents are priority. Affordable building is also priority in that. So that was kind of the two main changes. We wanted to make sure that these properties were available to neighborhood residents, not developers, but investors. So we've changed the program so, investors aren't coming in here, investor heavy, to purchase these properties, and it is open for residents first. Now, we will keep it open for residents, but then after a certain time period, especially on the structural side, they will be available to developers and other individuals that want to be developed first. But on many cases, the priority is given to residents, and priority is given to affordable housing development. these changes are really to fill in gaps. I mean, I know that's what it states on the screen, but it is really to kind of perfect some things that our intended goal was in that first change. We are really just trying to revise some wording on these programs um, for the intended use of Landbank, the full goal of the Landbank. So there was some maybe just not the best wording, maybe owner over was used and not occupied. That's kind of one of the things that we saw the issues were, but we just want to be intentional in our program changes. One of the just kind of overall, one of the changes has to do with sales agreements that we want to incorporate, or a developer's agreement. So if a developer comes in, we are looking to be more purposeful in who we are selling these properties to. So things like if you're going to say you're going to sell this property as affordable, we want to hold you to that. If you want to say you want to purchase your property as a side yard, but then sell your property as an investment, we want to hold you to those agreements. So the sales agreement we are looking at incorporating, or developer's agreement. And that's just because, again, you're purchasing this property from the land bank, and we are just trying to be very purposeful and intentional in the end use and end goal of this property. Another thing is right of first refusal. It's something that we've never reviewed on a land bank property, but we're looking to incorporate that into our changes. So, and we'll go over some instances later about that, but right of first refusal on these land bank properties. And so that right we're looking to assert, and it may not be in every project, but we want to have that right on some of the projects or the properties that are being sold. So after today, there will be, and it will be available on our link, there will be a WUFU form, and we'll be having targeted interviews. So you can also send emails to our VAPSTAT email address, but WUFU form, VAPSTAT email address, if it's just a general kind of conciseness, but we're trying to make sure that what the information that you question us about, we can understand. So it's not, we're not basically dictating how the comments are coming in, but I want to know if you are commenting about a lot on my block, that I know that you're commenting about the lot on my block change and not the side yard change. So, please look at our website to then respond to any changes that we're proposing. Also, I'm sorry, just trying to make sure I have everything. The racial equity toolkit will be used in this. So we will review all the changes once they are brought to us, all the conversations, all the WUFU forms, all the emails. We'll look at those, look at our changes, look and see what people are stating, what issues are, or if you like them. I mean, we want those. If you like them, if you agree with these changes, let me know. I mean, then we can say, okay, these people really like the changes for this program. So let us know that too. But we will be comparing those to the racial equity toolkit that was passed in 2020. I'm going to hand this over to Valencia to start talking about the disposition program changes for vacant lot programs.
All right. So the first program that we'll discuss today is the My New Side Yard. Thank you. So one of the changes that we're wanting to implement is to require a qualifying applicant to own and occupy a property. We would like to assert our right of first refusal with the deed restrictions on this program, as well as to require the lot usage to be in line with the program goals. So the reasons for this change is because a lot of times we would receive an application from someone who owns a vacant lot on a street, and they want to acquire another vacant lot on the street. So we're trying to make sure that if you're wanting a side yard, that you actually have a structure to have a yard, to have an extension of your yard for. So that's the reason why we say we want you to have an occupied. We don't want that structure to be vacant. We would like for that structure to be occupied to benefit the occupants of that structure. Okay, so that it can be an extension of that yard, which is the intent of that program, for it to be a side yard.
So I think I do want to mention this. So we're not saying that for someone to apply for this, we that it can't be a landlord, a property. We want the property occupied. So we don't want unoccupied property, that person submitting for a side yard, because that's what we're getting a lot. So we are getting people that hasn't been, I mean, we drove past one and it looked like we probably should have been, it should have been on our vacant and abandoned property list. Like they were applying for that to be a side yard. That's not the intention for this property. The intention for this property is for either an owner to apply for a side yard because you want your yard bigger, you want your kids to be out there, be able to play out there, or it is for a landlord that owns that property and maybe they're renting to a family that wants some green space on the side. The whole intention for that is to increase the yard size. So in that, we're asking, we want the property to be occupied. Because of that also, and I'll go just, I'm sorry, one down, we want to be able to assert a right of first refusal on that. If your intention is to create a bigger yard for your tenant or for yourself, it shouldn't be for you to sell that property. So we are either asking you to consolidate that, and we understand that can be a barrier, so we're not requiring that. But we are stating we want to first the right of refusal if you plan on selling this property separate from your property, the structured property.
Does everyone, oh, well, I guess I'll go ask that in
Yeah.
the end. Okay. So yeah, so the asserting the first right of refusal is definitely in line with the intent of the program and just making sure that we keep everything aligned with the program goals. So we'll move to lot on my block. Lot on my block, we would like to require the same thing, that the qualifying applicant to own and occupy the property that's on the same block as the land bank parcel. And same similar thing has happened here where someone will have a vacant lot and they want to acquire another vacant lot just to maintain it, cut it, and keep it on the same block. And it happens all the time, but we would like for it to align with the program, so we would like for you to have an occupied property, okay? Land bank retains the right of first refusal for the deed restrictions if the community space is intended. So one of the intended uses under the Lot on My Block sales program is to keep it as a community space. And what we would like for it to be, what we would like to see is if you intend that it's a community space, that you use it for that reason. And if you do not use it for that reason, we would like to assert the right of first refusal. The next is limiting the sales to one lot per qualifying applicant. The reason behind this is a lot of people like to hoard properties, and they will apply for a lot on my block 1 year and apply for another lot on my block, and they just keep recycling and repeating the same pattern over and over. And there's other people that are interested or that may not even be aware of what we have. And so what we want to do is limit that to one qualifying property. If you have a qualifying structure on the same block as the lot that you're applying for, if you use that as your address, as your qualifying property, then you get one lot on my block per qualifying property.
And I want to add on to that is that, you know, sometimes these properties have usually been demolished, so there was a structure on there. So you know that there is MSD, sewer lines, there's everything that's already ran. And really, if these lot on my blocks, what it is, the intention is not for it to be built on. Maybe sometimes later, maybe 5 years down the line, but the intention is for it not to be built on at the current time. So the thing about it is if we sell one lot as a lot on my block to you this year and then another one next year, and then what if another neighbor wants 2 or 3? Like, we are changing neighborhood makeups. So where there were structures on these properties and good utilities already under these properties, we are changing neighborhood makeups by not having a house on that structure. So, you know, in some instances, if you have 5 or 6 demolitions on a block and there's 5 or 6 lots on a block, and if all these lots get sold out as lot on my block, you're going to have gaps a lot in between a neighborhood, whereas beforehand you had a full neighborhood, and it was a full neighborhood. So that is another reasoning in regards to limiting the sales. Also, another thing that we are removing is ineligible projects to include as unfenced gardens and new construction. So I want to dive into this a little bit. So, and I'll go to the easy one first. So new construction, on that, there is another program for if you're trying to purchase to build. So there is a Build Back Our Blocks program, and there's two parts to that. There is a ready rate, meaning you're ready to go at that time, and then there's an opportunity rate. If you're not ready to go, and you're still trying to, get some funding or whatever that may be, you can still purchase that lot from the land bank, but you're purchasing under that part of the program, which means you're not ready to go at that time. We don't want you holding a lot or purchasing under a lot on my block, and it's not supposed to be for builds. That there is a program for builds. Now, in regards to the unfenced gardens, we went back and forth on this a lot. We wanted to put, maybe a fenced garden or private garden on that. Sometimes the fences can become barriers. Fences are high. So it's not something that we want to require for that, but we also have a garden program that we would like people to go through. Many times when we get requests for a lot on my block for fences, we call that person up and we're saying, well, we understand you want to purchase under this. And because it's not under the Grow in Your Neighborhood program, we're saying, well, have you had the soil tested? Are you getting the soil tested? And sometimes it's no, I haven't even thought about that, or it's just going to be, and so they're not getting the soil tested. Then we're saying, well, have you thought about getting liability insurance on this? Because if at this point, if you're not going to have a fenced garden, it's going to be open, and then it's going to be down the block from you. So it doesn't have liability insurance. The soil isn't getting, we don't have anything behind that because this isn't a garden program. It's a lot on my block available for all residents within that block. So that was the reason why we added, its ineligible projects are for unfenced gardens and new construction. So that was the reasoning behind that. And then, we'll talk about the Growing Your Neighborhood program in a little bit. Build Back Our Blocks. That's another program that the vacant lot program that we have. And we are adding a 5-year requirement for buyer to occupy as a primary residence. So if you are applying under Build Back Our Blocks as the owner occupant, so you're applying under this owner occupant, you will be required to be in that property for 5 years as the owner occupant. And I don't think that that's outside of guidelines. I mean, you're purchasing something at a discount. So, and it is, tied to many programs. It is, so what I will say is that if you are owner occupant and you are applying under that, therefore it's putting you in front of everybody else, there's a 5-year requirement that you would need to live in that property as your primary residence.
So what she meant, just a little clarity there in terms of scoring, because we score on that program, when you apply as an owner occupant, you receive more points. So if you say I'm applying as an owner occupant and then you wanted to only live there for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, we're putting this restriction on there that says you must reside in that property for 5 years.
So going on to grow, thank you for that. Thanks. Going on to Grow in Your Neighborhood, this is something that was brought to my attention early on when I took this position. So under this, beforehand, this was only a lease program. So, we could only lease to people and people never was able to purchase the lot. So what we're looking at is it's like a 3-year lease to own. So it is 3 years of successful operation. And then again, we want to add that first right of refusal on this. So if it is a community garden, and you have it as a community garden, and then 10 years later, we've sold it to you after the 3 years, and then 7 years down the line, it's no longer operating, or, you decide to move or whatever, and then you want to sell it. Well, we want the first right of refusal in that project, in that sale. Maybe there's somebody else that can pick that up, or, maybe it's just, in an area that, maybe it's some kind of neighborhood association that's teaming up and wants to have that land. But the goal is if you are trying, if it's a community garden, we want the first right of refusal back on that property. So that is the vacant lot programs. We're going to go into the structural programs next changes. Okay.
So the structure program, the first structure program that we'll discuss is Save Our Structure. The time limit for these structures to remain in the program has been lengthened to allow for more opportunity for sale. Previously, it was 30 days that these structures would stay in this program before we would move them over to the demo for deeds, which is the next one that we're going to talk about. So right now we're saying we would like to hold these properties. If they can still be saved, we would like to keep them in the Save Our Structure program to allow for people the opportunity to renovate and rehabilitate that property, rather than just moving them just because it's met a 30-day threshold. Okay. And then adding a 5-year requirement for buyers to occupy as a primary residence. So again, this one is set up where we score this one. So if you are applying and you're stating that your intended use will be to own or occupy that property, when you say own or occupy, we want to hold you to that. We want you to own it and occupy it for 5 years. So we would like to make sure that that restriction is included in the deed restrictions that you sign when you purchase that property. Lowering the requirements as to the required budget for, let's back up. So prior to these changes that we are wanting to implement, a person would have to submit a full budget for the complete project. So from start to finish, whatever that rehab cost would cost you, we would like to see that itemized out from start to finish. Well, now we would like to see at least the exterior and structural components only. Now, that's itemized out, but then you also supply proof of funds for just that, not the entire project. So if you have interior, cosmetic things, plumbing, electrical, and stuff on the inside, that still can be done, but we don't require the proof of funds for that up front. We just require the structural elements and the exterior elements to be supplied in the proof of funds. Okay.
So yeah, we saw that as a barrier for the Save Our Structures, and what we know, just dealing with this type of work and in real estate and development, we know that often, some people are waiting for that last project to complete. And so they may, be already working on this block, see that this property is listed as a Save Our Structure. They may have some funds available, and we want to clear the blight in neighborhoods. So the goal is to clear that exterior blight, fix the structural issues. And so we want to show proof of funds for that. Just because we know that the bigger price, the 150, the 130,000, is sometimes hard to show proof of funds for, but maybe somebody has 40,000 or 50,000 to go on and get the exterior and the structural that they can show, and then maybe that other project that they're waiting on, or their funding, maybe at that point the house will appraise enough to say, let me go back and get a construction loan on that, and then you can finish the inside. So we're just really trying to be intentional about the program changes. We want neighborhoods. We want to see a change in these neighborhoods, and we have seen some changes in neighborhoods, but we want to kind of speed that action up a little. And I think this is a good, a good happy medium for that. But we'll see from comments whenever they're ready to be submitted later. You want to go over demo for deeds?
Sure.
Okay.
So the other structure program that we offer is called Demo for Deeds. So one of the change that we are wanting to implement is the time limit for the structures to remain in the program. We would like to lengthen that to allow for more opportunity for sale, similar to Save Our Structure. We just want to make sure that we're not just taking these properties out of demo for deed just because they've met a certain type of threshold. If they are not declared an emergency demo and they can still be held in our program and sold through our program, we would like to sell them through our program to give someone an opportunity to demolish that structure. Okay.
And what I would say is we are looking at costs. So if we are having to send out, like, let's say that this property is listed for demo for deed, and let's say that, police are having to come, or, the property is getting broken in, like, we will move that over to demolish. So it's not something that we will not demolish, but if we see, if we see further issues, we will demolish it. But we do want to allow these a little bit more, available for people. So we're just not taking the property away and hurrying up and demolishing it, because we have done that. And then, we've been contacted saying, I wanted to buy that property. I was just trying to get all my docs together. Right. And then we've already demolished it because it hit the 30-day threshold. So we're trying to remove that 30-day threshold and to moving that over to demolition and make it be out there just a little bit longer so people can have the opportunity to purchase it. So we'll go to the next program.
This is the scoring criteria. So I'll start.
Okay.
So scoring criteria we're going to do some changes on our scoring criteria as well. So owner occupants, currently receive 40 points for declaring that they're going to be an owner occupant will still have 40 points for declaring that they will be an owner occupant. The only change is what we've already discussed, which would be if you declare you want to be an owner occupant, you are required to hold that property in your ownership for 5 years.
I'll go to this next one. So the affordable housing, right now, I think that's our biggest question that we get right now. Like, what is affordable housing? And I think that question comes to everybody. So right now, we look at the HUD guidelines for affordable housing. We like the HUD guidelines, but we've also had that neighborhood assessment survey that was completed maybe a month ago or a month and a half ago, and we want to look at those. So just kind of going over some differences. HUD looks at the whole looks at the whole county, and they give our AMIs based off of that, and so it looks at the whole county. We want to look at the neighborhoods. So what is, what are the sales prices for the neighborhood? What is that averaging? So we want to build it off of the neighborhood assessment that has come out. We are still looking at that. And, once we have that, we will post that once we come up with a definition and a chart with, funds or sale requirements on there, we will post that. I don't know if that will be completed by today, but I'm hoping that it will be completed by the end of the week. So I'm throwing that out there as well. But we understand that housing prices are high, so we want to make sure that it's tailored more to that area, so it doesn't create a snowball effect of houses being listed on higher ends just because we're in the county based on HUD guidelines overall. So I hopefully that makes sense. Yeah.
Construction budget?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other criteria that is being slightly modified is the construction budget. Currently, you get 15 points. You will continue to get 15 points under the scoring criteria. What we're wanting to see a revision of is under Save Our Structures, we would like to lower the requirement as to the required budget, which is what I was saying before in terms of the structural components, the elements that are on the exterior and the structural components. Those are the things that you would have to supply the proof of funds for, and that is why we're going to change that scoring criteria to show just structural and exterior. Outside of that, you don't really have to supply that up front.
Oh, so this was in the Landbank proposal. In the Landbank proposal meeting as well. So sometimes we get questions on our lots. We do have several lots in inventory and that are available. So these are available lots right now. These are showing the buildable lots that we have. So I'll just go into definitions on this. Available means they are listed for sale. And then pre-solicitation means we are holding them to either acquire another lot. So we have several in pre-solicitation, but we want to kind of put properties back together. So in some areas, you will see that there's a front lot and then there's a back lot, and they are two different parcels. So we would like for those lots to come back together. So many times we will, if we know that we already own a front lot, we will then try to go and acquire that back lot to just kind of put them back together. Another thing is if we see that we own two properties and maybe it's in a row, and then there's another one on the side or another one in the middle, we will hold these to then try to acquire that one that's in the middle. So then we have three properties. And then it kind of brings us on to another subject after this. But at that point, maybe we can sell those three properties to be developed at once because we understand economies of scale. So that's one intention for the pre-solicitation of interest. So it is to target areas within a block to combine them. So maybe it's a front and back. Maybe it's a house that is sitting on two parcels. If we've had that encroachment, so maybe we can acquire that second lot. So then there's not issues going down the line. We've had duplexes that are sitting next to each other and we only acquired one half of the duplex. And even though it's connected, there's another part. So now we're just holding that. So it's a whole lot of reasons why we do not list the pre-solicitations of interest. But right now we are holding them usually to acquire another lot. But right now we will be reviewing those, and then after, if the changes are enacted, we will then be putting out solicitations of interest to sell those properties for development in bulk. The next change is we're looking to explore selling properties in multi-parcel sales. So like I just told you, the pre-solicitations of interest, sometimes we have 3 or 4 properties on a block, and we often hear from developers, nonprofits, that, man, I want to just stay in this place. I can have everything done. My electrician can come all at the same time to all 4 houses. All these things. I can buy my material for less because I'm buying in bulk for all 4 of these properties. So we proposed this change to the land bank to be able to sell in bulk to developers. So we're, in this, we want to develop a program that is intentional for land bank goals. Okay, so at the end, we want, the properties to be that sold as affordable housing to an owner occupant. We want the developer to already have a owner occupant pool. I mean, a pool that maybe is coming from the Urban League, or maybe it's coming from some down payment assistance kind of education, where they are buyer ready already, and that developer can help get these, those people into that house. So we want to launch this program, but we want to be very intentional about this program. And so we will be having targeted interviews to kind of discuss the development of this program. Currently, we are only selling 1 to 2 properties, and to an individual at a time. So sometimes those properties, I'm not gonna say sometimes, those properties do have to be 85% complete before you get that second one. So at this time, we would like to sell them maybe 3 or 4, maybe 2 or 3 to an individual. If they have proof of funds to develop it. We want the projects to be completed within a year. We want them to be started no later than 90 days from the date of conveyance. And that may be where the sales agreement comes in, or the development agreement comes in. But again, every change that we want to implement are coming because we have purposeful goals, and we have an intention behind our changes. So I think that's about it on that one. So again, we're opening this up for our WUFU. We will also have it available via email, and this will open through 6:30. At the land bank meeting, we had 6:20 on the slide. We needed to open that up just a little bit longer. So, I mean, the meeting's today, 5:28. So we want to have that open through 6:30. And then we will propose these changes. After we get them together, we are looking to bring this back to the land bank board either in July or August. So just depending on how many comments we get to review and sort out, and if we need to make changes from there. So just really depending. We're hoping to bring these forward into July. So thank you, Kayla, for that. So WUFU form, and it will be available on our website at louisvilleky.gov/community development, or you can put /vacant and it'll take you to the same spot. I do want to go back to something that I think I skipped over, and I really didn't mean to. Growing your neighborhood. So this is the garden lot, if you all can remember. We were changing it from just lease to a lease to buy after 3 years, where we were asking for the right of first refusal. One thing, and so these were the 2 main things I've left out, these 2 last parts on here, was beforehand we were asking for a stake survey. Definitely wanted to remove that. We don't ask that for the builders to get a stake survey. So, there's no reason for us to ask it for a garden. Next thing is that we want to add requirements for signage. So if it's a pollinator garden that you're having, maybe it's just a sign that says pollinator garden. We want, sometimes you get complaints and, questions that come in. And I think if we were being very, yeah, transparent in it. Like, let's tell people what that is, a pollinator garden. Also a contact name and maybe an email to be, so in case there are issues, somebody can reach out to you and people aren't receiving that notice through code enforcement. So I think those things are reasons why we wanted to add that type of thing in there. Also community buy-in. So we want to get some community buy-in for these gardens. What we're seeing and what we're hearing is that community, like the gardens are set up in neighborhoods, and there's nobody from the community that's participating in that garden. So, we would like to know, do you have two of the neighbors within that block or within the 3-block radius that's applying for that? Do you have a petition signed by the neighborhoods to say, yes, we want this garden, but we want some community buy-in for this, for the garden program. And then also we are proposing that UK Extension Office be the facilitator of this. We don't know gardens. I don't know gardens at all. I've even asked my daughter to join one of the garden groups just so I can know and be more, into it, which I need to be, and I think it would be healthier for me to be. But so I do want the UK Extension Office to kind of oversee this. They have a great agricultural program, and then that way they are facilitating the need. And then once it's approved on their end, and the UK Extension Office is a third-party unbiased view. So at that point, they can submit it over to us, and once they submit it over to us, it should be ready to go to present to the Land Bank board. So I did want to bring that back because I kind of rushed over that, and I didn't mean to, but I'll just go back to the WUFU form slide, and then I guess we can go on and take questions. So if you have any questions, please, and we'll take them from the people that are in the room first, and then we'll go to online chat. Okay, I think I saw your hand first. I'm sorry.
Outside of the grow on your block, is there community buy-in requirement for all the other programs? And why not?
No. So we do not. So this is one reason why we have this board right here. So number one, if you're coming in as a community garden, you want to set up a garden there that's supposed to be for the community. So this isn't like I'm building a house for myself.
Or I'm building it.
Yeah, or a side yard that I'm trying to acquire for myself to combine. This is more for a community benefit. So that is one reason that we wanted the buy-in on there. Amanda, did you hold on one second? I think she had a question next.
A lot of my block, you have a few things listed that are not eligible, but I'm not clear from the description of like what is the intention for those properties. If it's not to build on, if it's not for garden, like what is it actually for?
So okay, so it used to be a cut it, keep it. I don't know if you remember that. So it used to be cut it, keep it, and really it is the intention. So Metro Crews aren't out there cutting the grass. Sometimes it's hard for us to get to everything within a consecutive time period. So it is for neighbors if they want to apply. I mean, we've had people, under right intentions that it was for their daughter, that's going to come back and build maybe in five years or so, or to acquire that property. Usually it is for a family member for later on. I mean, that's normally the thing that we hear the most.
They'll maintain it.
Yeah, and then also it could be for, I'm just trying to think about past thoughts, that it was just to really maintain it, just to come and cut it. Sometimes it is dumping that is the issue that people have, and they just have been maintaining that lot, and they just feel like, I want it. I've been maintaining it for 10 years, and I want this lot. So, in newer proposed changes in 2022, it was, we added the availability for lease, for if you have been on that block and you've leased that property for 5 years, and you want that lot. So
You don't own property on the block, but you're renting.
You're a long-term renter.
you're a long-term renter.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
It's still unclear of like what are the uses that they, what I mean? Why would you exclude the other uses? Just to have it, like why not let them plant some trees or put a garden, or why not let them?
Well, they can. You can still have a private. That was what we were saying before. Like if you wanted a private garden, we would prefer for it to be fenced so that there's no misconception from the community that this is a public garden, I can just go and get some fruit off of it or go get some vegetables or whatever. So yes, you can still maintain it and keep it and plant flowers or plant fruit or whatever it is that you might want to do privately. So you can still utilize the garden that way. A lot of times we see this too, where they'll want a lot because, well, it qualifies under a lot of my blocks because it's too big for a side yard. So it goes over the 4,000 square foot minimum or maximum for a side yard, but it's within the lot of my block. So they'll get it. It is actually adjacent to their home, but they have to purchase it through lot of my block. So that's another reason.
Yeah. You had a question next.
I do have a question. What is the actual price of what I'm saying, because it's real estate? So what is the confidence interval on that? So basically, guys, basically throwing out a price that, when you sell property, you buy 1.2 acres, 0.2 acres, all that. What is the confidence interval that you guys are basing these properties on when you sell as a lot, when you sell as a business, or if you're selling if like someone was to invest on gardening? What is a lot price compounded in by confidence interval by 95% of the actual property being sold? Because that's basically what it's all about. That, like, a safe answer, if I walk in with $125,000 and based on the neighborhood, just an empty lot over in a West End Shining neighborhood, and based on wherever because by the park the houses are worth more than on the other side of the street. So say for instance there was an empty property and I just want to plant a small garden. How much would you say from you guys' agency where it starts up? Because basically it's ground level information, but there is not an actual price range so that people can know like what they need to invest in, how to go to the bank. Basically, if we were to go to the bank and ask for a lending form of a loan, that's like, so what kind of loan be, where's your property, how much is selling at, and what are we going to give you this loan for?
Okay. So I think I'm just going to try to best, I guess, answer that question. So our programs, we do have specific prices on the property. Mm-hmm. And then also I'll mention in regards to Westover neighborhood also that you mentioned, but our properties, if they are a side yard, they're sold at $1. So we do have a maximum square foot on that, which Valencia just mentioned, which is 4,000 square foot. So it is 4,000 square foot and under. If it's a side yard, it is sold as $1. If it's a lot on my block, is 5,000 and under, and that is sold at $250.
Now, how much is that annual?
No, that's one price. It's not an annual fee. Yeah,
it's not purchase price for you to acquire the property.
Yes,
$250.
Yeah, so it's not we're conveying you the property.
That we give the property and whatnot, we keep up the property and property taxes on the property. Does the original amount of the taxes you pay on that property, does we should keep it up for a while? Does it increase based on likelihood of the upkeep, or is it staying the same?
No, so it's based on the market area. So whatever PVA comes back through and then assesses your property at. So if it's assessed at 2,000 the first year, and then they usually go every 5 years, just depends on what what loop you're on. If they come back and reassess that at 4,000, your tax bill will go up. But we do have set prices for that. Also, I know you mentioned like some areas and some. So at the end of the day, like some properties we are able to acquire, some properties we aren't. Some in some of the neighborhoods, Metro is just not able to acquire these properties. So we purchase most of our properties through the commissioner sale, from vacant and abandoned properties that we have, tried to put in a court action. We also accept properties in donation. So some neighborhoods we are just not able to get properties in. Some neighborhoods we are. So we have set prices for our lot. Gentlemen, I think you had a question.
Yeah, I live adjacent to a main property. I've been to acquire. They asked a question about there's two large catalpa trees right away. One's about to fall.
Okay.
One is, acquire the property, then be
responsible for that tree.
Let's talk about that afterwards. We'll probably need to have an assessment done on those trees, but we'll get your information afterwards. Definitely your address so we can come out there and look at it and then send somebody over there. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
You all mentioned the change of, growing your neighborhood, going from lease to own.
Mhm.
What is you all's metrics for measuring success for someone or organization who does want to do the lease to own, and then after 3 years, y'all just take their land back?
So what I will say first off is that the lease to own is continuous. Like we normally, if you're leasing it to own for 9 years for $1, because that's how much we charge for those, it would be consecutive. What we're looking at basically after those 3 years is we're looking at, have you been maintaining it or is there taxes paid on it? Has code enforcement cited it, which is one reason why we want the signage, because we know that there's an issue with, especially with pollinator gardens for that. So we want to kind of knock that out rather than you all having to get it waived or whatever. So that's the whole intention. We want to make sure that you are maintaining and taxes are paid on that. And then after that 3 years, you would come back to us and we are selling you that property. We're selling you that property again for $1. So it's not appraised value to whatever. It will be sold for $1 for that. I mean, for that same use. And then that property is yours. Now, like I said before, 10 years, 20 years later, it's no longer in use. You want to sell it, whatever. We do have that first right of refusal for it to come back to us first for opportunity to purchase. And although it's not in there, but we're looking at the purchase at that point to be appraised value so that, it will be what that appraised value is.
Do you have that rubric created for when you say this, after the 3 years, then we'll sell it? You said like reach out there.
No, but we can make sure that that's in there. And I would appreciate if you could add that, like if you could go on that Woo Food form. Yeah, just so we can have that documented. But yeah, please do that, because I don't want it to be oversight, and I know I'll probably be hearing from tons of people in one ear out the other.
I did have a question for you about the Grow Your Neighborhood program.
Uh-huh.
There is a strong possibility that the UK Public Extension Service will be defunded by local metro, starting in July 1. And I just wanted to flag that.
Yeah, we are looking at that.
Yes.
Yeah, we are looking at that. So if we, hopefully if we, yes, we're looking at that funding. But yeah.
And just wanted to suggest with that there's the Food and Neighborhoods Community Coalition,
Mhm.
the
Yes.
Coalition, strongly connected to UK Cooperative Extension, but not dependent on metro funding, which could be a potential.
Okay. Thank you. Send that in an email. Please send that through the WUFA form or email, because I don't want to miss any of the information.
So the 5-year requirement for owner occupied for the building one.
For the owner occupant.
Who want to sell the property after 3 years.
So that's another thing, is we're talking about that sales requirement, that sales agreement. We've talked to the county attorney in regards to like some of these things where people saying that they're doing this and then they don't. So we're looking at maybe a penalty. So maybe at that point, we sell these properties on that side for $500, $1,000 for those properties that need to be developed. Maybe at that point, we're putting a penalty in for the land value at that time.
Well, what if they want to lease? Like, what if they want to turn it into Airbnb after 2 years?
No.
Are there mechanisms in place?
Yeah, so we have a,
accountability.
yes. So we do have compliance. So, Melissa will tell you right now, we're looking for another person because she's amazing, but it's a lot, for her, and Connie. Connie's not here to be looking through. But we do have compliance. Felicity drives by those properties. We're checking those properties. We are now rental registry. We're comparing those properties up against if you applied under owner occupancy, all the stuff. So, and then also we're asking for our DPA compliance team to kind of help us with that. So, there are metrics, there are things set to make sure that people do say that what they're going to do. And that's one reason for the sales agreement, because we want to be able to penalize people when they say.
Pass the land bank.
Yes,
So,
yes,
you know that that's
yes. So, yeah, we definitely are looking at that. Ma'am, you had a question?
You talked about being intentional about end uses.
Yes.
Land bank property. What does that include, and do you have like any assessment tools to make sure like people aren't being displaced as a result of your what do you call it, anti-displacement that they creating?
So yes, because of this is considered considered, that was one of the questions that came up in the anti-displacement model that they are trying to set. I believe Landbank falls under that, so that would be under that review as well. But I think definitely send that question, and then that way we can clarify that whenever we do roll these changes out, because then we can mention that when we had that land bank board meeting. But because land bank property, and because it was initially a metro action that helped the land bank get the property, it would fall under that tool that they are creating.
Are there any plans to limit the number of properties a developer can hold?
So a developer can hoard. So are you talking about rentals then? Is that what you mean? So multi-parcel sales are for owners. So it is a sale that would be at the end goal for the outcome of that. It would not be for us to sell to a developer to develop that property and then for them to rent it out. It would be for it to be sold. And that is the reason why one of the things, just us kind of creating this program, we are looking at them having for them to even qualify under this, is for them to have some kind of buyer pool. So that would be, people that are ready, buyer ready, or getting buyer ready. And then that way they could access that buyer pool to sell those properties. But no, under that multi-parcel, it would be for them to be sold and not rented at the end. And that's another reason why we're looking at the development agreement or a sales agreement in that, because if you don't, at that point, we're looking at possibly being able to purchase that property from you all and then us sell it. If you can't sell it, maybe you have it marketed and it's causing an issue. Maybe we're purchasing it from you for that multi, and then we can resell it out, through another program. So, there's several things, but we want that development agreement to kind of seal all those deals and close those gaps. Okay, I think you were next.
Yes, ma'am. I've been waiting on the house next door. So, the city owns the house next door to me. I think you got it maybe a year ago. I'm not sure. My question is, how long does it take to get to the land bank? And I would like to purchase the property, and I would be willing. I would like to attach it to my property.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's close enough that I could add on.
Okay, so I want to answer part of your question, and I want to talk to you after this meeting to answer the second part. Now, some of the properties are going to revert. So we split our properties into like 3 different categories. One is good to us. If it looks, if it's good to us, then there's bad, and then there's worse. So good means it's still a mess. It is, but it's not a structural mess, and it's not a demolition. So it means that it is sound, which is good. And so those properties are going to revert. Worse, I will say, is save our structure, and then, or bad is save our structure, and then worse is demo for deed. But those properties are going to revert to be sold to owner occupants. I don't know if you've heard anything about the Louisville Affordable Housing Trust program, but they do have that revert program. Revert is given $50,000 for rehab of those properties. So that's kind of the reason why we put our good to us properties under that, because then those properties can be rehabbed with owner occupant and like hand holding for developers to come in and help them rehab that property with those extended calls. So that's the reason why revert is offering that 50. But
that shut out the neighbor. That shuts me out.
So let me talk. I don't know what the address is, and I don't know what that rating is. So let me look at it, because we are pushing them out. We're pushing them out for the save the structure as we got them in. So we can look at that property to see where it's at, and then determine from there. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if I mentioned this, but my question was more so of, so if a community organization like a nonprofit does have a community member who wants to donate their property, so let's say we develop it and turn it into a center, what process would that be? I don't want the property to go in and now it's in Reason, another area. certain extension is utilize it as a community center because they see a need for that. How would
We can talk afterwards. I mean, that may be some planning type of zoning changes. Also, th- let's just talk afterwards because I think that's more of a specific question. And then I'll take the last question and say yes.
Yeah, so when you're asking for, budget and timeline and proof of fund, what does that mean in terms of, I got $1 for this, or do you want to see phase 1, phase 2, phase
Yeah.
6?
Yeah.
Do I have to have the money for all 6 phases?
So,
And why?
okay, so that's kind of the save the structure. So you remember when we were talking about save the structure and we were changing it. So beforehand, it was a budget that you had to show with the timeline and proof of funds on there. So like, let's say it was 150,000. So we were requiring, I think it's 90% of that for you to show that. Now we are changing it, where yes, we want a budget and to show the whole thing, but we only want to see proof of funds for the exterior and the structural.
Okay, what about the growing your neighborhood?
So growing your neighborhoods, you do have to show a proof of funds on that, but that is if you are building plots, whatever else that it takes to bring everything in. Some people have built a shed on the lot or some kind of storage thing. Yeah, so like
Right.
proof of funds for that.
What if we already own those things?
Okay.
We're just bringing them to the lot that we already own those things. We
Right.
have to show.
You don't. 'Cause
So
we would
yeah,
already-
and so like, what about upkeep, on that? So if you are maintaining the lot, a water source, if you're doing it, so that may cost some money. So that's what we need proof of funds for. So stuff like that. And then yes, the phase 1, phase 2, we love those. So yeah, so I mean, some people will say completed within the first 10 days, some people 10 to 20 days, but some type of timeline in regards to how long it takes for a project to be completed. Okay, yeah.
Where you guys have any gardens here in Louisville that we can go to and see that you guys have?
Yes. So I want to connect you with the individual on the end right here. So Amanda, so definitely if you all can connect afterwards, I think she's a really good resource.
Yeah, I'm from Florida. We have fields and fields, plants, gardens, and everything.
Yeah.
We acquired some land too. We have good intentions as well. And so I see it does need a lot of help. And I wanted to also ask if the last program you guys had, you guys sealed it or no longer doing it, like stay cut, like the.
Okay, keep.
Yeah, so you guys left that alone.
It changed names, so now it's Lot on My Block.
Okay, so now it's not, so with the program you guys are now detailing out and putting together, how did you guys come up with this program?
So Lot on My Block, I mean, sometimes we look at other cities to see what other cities are doing. Lot on My Block and Cut It, Keep It was around for so long, so I'm not really sure where it came from. I do know that a lot of peer cities have a similar program, so I'm sure that it came
Here in Kentucky?
not in Kentucky, but like other metropolitan areas, so Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Detroit. But so what I would say is that it probably came from like mirroring a similar program. Over the years, we've changed it to just kind of, we see now what's better that works in Louisville or issues that we're having or whatever that may be. So we will try to tailor it to whatever is going on. So that's kind of the reason for today, is because we're seeing things that we're either getting applications for, and that really wasn't our intended use when we were trying to think of that program. And so it's just really as we go along to see how programs change and what the actual need is and things like that.
Because I've seen with the structures that you're trying to keep, most of these houses that I've seen is built in 1930s and 40s. And it's very hard structures, especially going to take a lot of finance and putting a lot of finance on people who are not bringing a lot of income.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yes.
And it could be health problems. It could lead them to a lot of things. And we're looking at the longevity of the younger generations for these people in the communities. We want to build something different, but I like the intentions you guys have to build just for those people in the community. That's good because investors can come in, build different, push a lot of people out, which is not good.
Right.
So I think there is new things that need to be implemented and first starting off taking care of it.
Yeah.
You know, taking care of the garden, having a community based inside. Because I cut grass around here. I'm starting to cut grass. And it's a very nice people around. Very nice. If you just get involved and help others and maybe push out incentives, programs to give money to people, you know, and I hear a lot of restrictions. I do hear a lot of restrictions, but also maybe the city can find ways to build programs to give back to communities like if you cut here, we'll give you money.
Like an incentive.
Yeah, like incentive.
Yeah, we've looked into that in the past, in which we are, again, we will look at. But I wanna go to this, and please, you all know you all have said a lot and asked a lot of questions, but I really want you all to, you know, please submit those requests, those comments, those questions, because I don't want to miss anything here. We want to make sure that we're hearing everybody, and you know,
Yeah.
our goal, I mean, it's Land Bank is about community. I mean, it's coming from you all. So tell us, like, I mean, at the end of the day, tell us, you know, what we're doing good, what needs to be worked on, what you don't like, what you don't know that you don't like. But I mean, just tell us at least, you know, maybe in a couple years, we're looking at this and saying, okay, we got this back then, and we only heard one person say this, but now we're getting 20, 30 comments on this. Maybe we need to, you know, look at change again in a couple of years. But this is forever improving. I mean, this Land Bank, you know, so I don't want people to just, you know, think that these are that's the reason why we have these. This is the reason why we're asking for public comment, because we want to hear public comment. Yes, I'll take that.
What if someone that owns the property wants to write a grant? Now, how long is the grant process open for you guys? And does it have to be scaled within the max month to be buying a property, or do you guys only want to be approved by the bank?
So we work with nonprofits in regards to grants. If you are trying to build something, we would tell you to probably go toward the opportunity rate on that. So you can acquire properties up on an opportunity rate. It's giving you a longer time period because you don't have the funding together. So you, at that point, you would have ownership of it and be maintaining it, but then you would be trying to secure that grant. Now, like, let's say that grant didn't come through. At that point, you know, you would contact us back and say, hey, I want to give this back to the land bank. But there is an opportunity for that. Okay, I think I want to go to the chat, and then I kind of want to end this because the intention wasn't for this meeting to go, you know, for a very long time period. I want to recognize people's times. So I know there's a question about the fence in regards to the private garden. So in regards to Lot on My Block, if you are wanting to purchase under Lot on My Block for a garden specifically, we would like that to be fenced. So we're not removing that. We're not removing it saying that you can't have a private garden, but just we definitely want to be able to, you know, let you know of other issues that are surrounding that. And we don't, you know, us selling that property to you in regards to it, we want to make sure if you're trying to keep, we don't want it to be kept open, because if you're not testing the soil or if you're not getting liability insurance, we want to make sure, you know, if it's intended for proper use, it needs to be fenced is basically the goal. If you don't want to have the soil tested, if you don't want to have that enclose it, and it will only hurt. I hate to say that, but it will only be for your outcome and not everybody else's that's coming and grabbing something on that land. It shows land bank rules. So yeah, the urban agriculture asked about purchasing one of the vacant lots. So in certain instances, we have things that are outside of our programs. So like if it is just something that is different, so you can always submit a proposal to us. When we do take a proposals, and that sounds like something that would be in that proposal. If not, it looks like it would probably go under growing your neighborhood, and then it would be the 3-year lease to buy. I think that was the question. Was those the only? Yes. Okay. That's all the questions. Those were the only questions. Yes.
I had a question related to the multi-parcel sale. And kind of how it fits for regular people with the build back our blocks. I think that was the acronym. I didn't really know it real well. Are regular people, like, I mean, just neighbors on the street, are they eligible for the the dollar rate, or would they only fall under the opportunity rate that you just spoke about? Like if you were, you were using your own financing or you're trying to get a grant or whatever. It's like,
So Build Back Our Blocks is sold at $500 for just regular. So it depends on the lot size. So it could go up to 1,000. So it's Build Back Our Blocks. So regardless if you are a neighborhood resident next door, Build Back Our Blocks is intentional for a development to be built. So that's sold at $500.
For ready.
Yes, and then for ready rate, and then for the opportunity rate, it is sold at a higher rate if you don't have everything in line.
and ready rate is that you're doing something like immediately.
Correct, that you're ready. Yep.
With that, with the opportunity rate, what is the timeline restriction on that? And the next part of my question was, could a sliding scale in the reverse be considered on that? One time I did mediation and individuals would apply for a sliding scale to pay less so they could afford to go. But for me, when I calculated the numbers, there were some clients that came in who made quite a bit of money and they were paying the same rate as someone who paid $20,000 a year, but you're making $80,000 and you can afford a rate. To me, calculated down to a actual percentage, and then everyone pays based on whatever they make. So whether they have no income or they're making upwards of $120,000, they are paying based on their actual income. And so I'm curious if that could be considered.
We have seen that in other cities, but normally that is cities that have less inventory. So I think if we got our inventory down or something like that, we would. I mean, even there's application fees that other cities have taken on. So we're not at that point yet. We want to get these properties, so many that are blighted. We really want to clean up some neighborhoods. So that's really the ending goal. In regards to opportunity rate, right now, just because the funding is not available and we are basically taking that property off of the market to sell to you, that's the reason why it is a higher price point. And I understand it kind of counters what we're trying to do, but at that point, if there's grant funding and even with the multi-parcels, like we have talked to several different nonprofits that want this, that want to come in here and help us, with the mayor's plan in regards to development. So, that's kind of the reason why we are making this push because, of course we want to get these houses developed and we're just not seeing it at the rate that we think it should be. Okay, what's the last question? Yes, ma'am.
Are side yards eligible only next to residential, or are there like some commercial properties where there could be a side yard next to it and occupancy requirement on a commercial property that would be good?
So we haven't really gotten a whole lot of that. Normally it's not commercial. Now I think we just got an application in regards to a commercial, but normally we do not receive side yard requirements of that. But I will say on that one, the lot is so skinny and the encroachment is so grand on the other side. It more than likely we will, because there's nothing else that can go there. I mean, there is really nothing else that can go there. So, I mean, we could see that we do not for commercial properties. Mostly it is residents or vacant lots that are fine for the side yard. So, yeah, so we are trying to just change that. But thank you everyone for attending. I'm sorry it ran over and we started a little bit late, but I appreciate it. But please submit those questions and comments to us.
Okay, can I run up on you now?
Yeah.
You want to
Yeah.
the email
Hi.
to
Oh, thank you. Okay, nice to meet you. All right, the plan room.
Yep.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
See you, Bowman. All right. Nice to meet you as well. Thank you.
I'm
Hopefully it
with
was
you.
helpful.
I mean, we're gonna say,
Okay.
I'm Tracy.
Okay.